Hey, what's up? It's Swamp. Back for another tutorial. Okay, and this one what I'm doing is redoing the area condition tutorial I did before. I didn't cover everything in the first one, so I decided to just redo it. So the first thing we need to do is grab an area condition. It's under Common, Game, Area Condition. Alright, now how this tile works is it's based on, it fades in and out based on the position of the rider. In this case, we're going to change this, but I'll show you how to do this first. Reacting object, the game character, meaning the rider. And then we're going to change the size. So I'm going to set this size to 50. And what that means is the tile, this whole area is 50 meters wide. And the tile is in the center. So as you ride towards the center of the 50 meters, the area condition settings are going to be applied more and more until it gets to be 100% when you're right at this tile. And then as you ride away, it's going to take away the area conditions until they're 0 once you're outside the 25 meter area. Is 50, half of 50 is 25 meters, so there's 25 meters on each side of this tile. It fades in and fades out. Now, let's go to the area condition settings. I'm going to explain these. What I'm going to do is make a nighttime track. So we're going to have the moon like directly in front of you, and it's going to be nighttime. So let's just start at the top with the sun settings. This first one is, what this does is it changes the sun graphic to the moon graphic. It takes the flare off the sun and changes it to the moon. The second one is angle. And what this does is adjust the up and down angle of the sun. So I'm just going to bring it down some. Longitude is right and left angle of the sun. So I'm going to bring it over. I'm sorry, moon. It says sun, so I'm just reading sun. Alright, so bring it down a little bit. Bring it over a little bit. Alright, now sun size. This is the size of the sun or the moon. So you can bring it up or down as big as you want it. Sun intensity is going to be the amount of light coming off of the moon or the sun. This is the main light source in your track. So this is how the sun is turned up and down. You could do this in track settings also, and I'll show you that in a different tutorial. But for this one, we're going to bring it down some because it's going to be nighttime. So you can see how much sunlight is on the sand dunes down there. So I'm going to bring it down some so it's more like nighttime. Okay, humidity level. What this does is adjusts the amount of water and like dew on the grass and water on the ground and stuff. So it makes it just like look like it's got more water on the ground. Sunlight color is going to be the color of your sun or your moon. You can make it any color you want. Whatever you want to do. I'm just going to set it to white right now. Alright, so now go back to the main settings. Sky settings, we're going to go to this. Now what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to make a gradient from dark blue, from a bluish on the ground going up to the stars and the black of the sky. So this first color I'm not going to use, so I'm just going to make this black. This is the lowest color on the horizon. This is the horizon color. The middle color is going to be the color about where the moon is, and I'm going to make that blue. Just a nice bluish. Alright, and then the zenith color, I'm going to make that black. That's the top, the color straight up in the sky. Okay, so now the horizon blend, what this is a gradient. This is how the colors are blended together. They go from one color to another, and this is how long it takes for them to go to those other colors. The fade height is how long it takes for the whole set of all those colors to fade up. And the horizon level is going to be the level of the colors. So you see that grayish coming up right there. That's the horizon color that I made black. So I'm going to take that down below the horizon. And then I'm going to lower these down. Mess with these. You just got to mess with these a little bit till you get what you want. See, it goes up higher. See the blue going up higher in the back? And I could bring it down some. So I want to bring it down a little bit. Okay, now cloud settings. What cloud settings does is, it makes your clouds larger or smaller. Now, what I'm going to do, though, is set the alpha to 0 because I don't want any clouds. So the alpha is like the opacity, transparency of the clouds. So I'm going to bring it down to 0, which means you can't see them. Alright, now star brightness. We want to see the stars, so I'm going to turn the stars up to 100. That's how bright the stars are. Sky brightness. This is how bright the colors are that you made in those top settings, the horizon, middle, and zenith colors. So I'm going to bring these down a bit because I don't want it too bright. Okay, now we go back to the main settings. Now we'll go to fog. Now what we're going to do with this is set the fog to black. Now what this top thing does, This is just different types of fog. With the linear fog, you can set the start and end distance of the fog and the color, and then the same thing with the other one, sunlight influence and stuff. It's just I like using the XP2 just because it seems to be easier to control. All right, so sunlight influence, what this is the amount of color the sun's, the color of the sun affecting the color of the fog. So if you wanted the sun to completely affect the color of the fog, you turn it to 100. If you don't want it to affect it at all and you just want the color of the fog, which we made black, we don't want the sunlight to make it any other color because the sunlight's white and the fog's black. We want the fog to be black. All right, fog sky density. What this is the amount of density the fog is in the sky. You can see you can bring it up and it just makes it more and more fog until you can completely black out everything. I'm going to bring that down a bit. Fog density is the density on the ground, the fog on the ground, and you see that can just you can just completely black out everything with that too, making the fog black. So I'm going to bring that down just a little bit, just to give it a little bit of a nighttime feel. All right. All right, so now ambient color. What this is this is the color of everything that the sun doesn't affect. So it's everything in shadows. So I'm going to bring this down some. You see you can make this completely black, and that would be a pretty dark track. I'm going to bring it up just a little bit, just to give it a little bit of color, just so we can see things. If you come down too much, you know everything will be black, and then you won't see anything. All right, so we'll talk about draw distance, max view distance, real quickly. Max view distance is how far you see, how far the camera renders things. So you see you can bring this back and just get rid of everything if you wanted to. It helps the performance of your track if you bring it down. If your track's not performing very well, it's lagging or the frame's tearing, you can turn this down to where because it's drawing things that you don't really need to see, especially if you're using fog. You can bring this down to where you can see what you want to see, but you don't need to go much higher than that. Max object view distance is the same thing as view distance, except this is going to be just the things that you put in the track. So you can bring down things like ramps and buildings and stuff. If you have things that you don't need to see, you can bring those down, and you can use this area condition to do that temporarily. So you can set this to when your rider gets close to it, it's going to affect it, and then when your rider rides away, it's not going to affect it. So you can set this to what you want. I'm just going to bring these back up for now because I haven't really done anything on this. Okay, so now let me show you how this works. So we have it set up. Now you see, set that down now. See, as we get closer and further away, it actually does work like it fades in and fades out. That's just with the build camera. Now I'm going to ride it and show you how it works when you ride the track. So you get within the 50 meters and it starts to affect the area condition. It sets it and then you ride away and it takes it away. Okay, so that's one way you can use this area condition. Another way you can use it is you can use another trigger and not use the rider. So let me show you how to do that. One thing you have to keep in mind with this stuff too is whatever's triggering this thing needs to be close to it to be 100%. So what we're going to use is a dummy object now. Alright, so let's throw the dummy object in, open up the area condition, and go to reacting object and make that custom object. Select the object and let's select the dummy object. Now this dummy object, you see it's fairly close to their area condition, but if you move it away, well, I don't know if it's going to work like this. It might just have to be on the track, playing the track. Okay, so anyway, what I'm talking about is the fade. So when you want this to be 100%, you're going to need to put the dummy object like right dead center, and it still may not be 100%. So it just fades. If you move it away, it's going to be a little bit less than 100%, 99%, something like that. So you just have to make sure that whatever you trigger this area condition with, it's got to be really close if you want it to be 100%. Okay, so now this is just going to be on because we're triggering it with that. So you see we go out of the 50 meter area and it's just turned on. The area condition is just on. Now if you wanted to turn this on and off, you can use that. You can use a variable to do that and use that under enabled. So once you use the dummy object, it's going to be on all the time. So let's go to data sources under triggers and events, and grab a variable data source. drop that in. All right, so now what variable data sources work like in buttons? You see you can set a pick value object with this. What this does is when it's set to 0, it's going to turn it off, not enabled. And then when you set it to 1, it's going to be enabled. But actually you see if you move it to 0.01, that is enabled. So what this setup is if it's set to 0, it's going to be turned off. If it's not set to 0, it's going to be turned on. But what I do is I usually set this to 1 because I want to keep things straight, have a lot of programming things going on sometimes. And once you start getting more complex items going and more things going on, 1s and 0s are going to be a lot easier to look at than 0.01s. So you'll know 1 means something's turns on and 0 means something's turned off. And you won't have to worry about what does 0.01 mean. So just use 1 and 0, turns it on and turns it off. All right, so I'm going to set it to 0 right now to make sure it's turned off. Now how you change this is you use a set value event. Now this is under events, set value event. And what this does is you open it up, set the type to set. The value, we're going to go to 1. And the event target is going to be the variable. Now you have to power this. You have to hit this with an interval. So you could use a checkpoint or you can use an area trigger. So I'm going to use an area trigger just so we can see it. So we open that up, set that to rectangle. I like setting it to rectangle because it seems a little bit more accurate, and you can they don't start taking up so much space. If you have a lot of area triggers in the same area and you have them all squares, they're going to start overlapping. You're going to start getting confused on when one's getting triggered and when another one's not getting triggered. So I use rectangle so we can keep it. It's just a plane, and when he breaks that plane, it triggers. So on hit, we're going to go to set value event, and we're going to set that to 1. Now let's bring this down some so we can turn it on. Just click the right stick to snap things to the drive line, and I'm going to copy that. I'm going to bring this up here, and we're going to turn it off with this one. So to turn it off, we have to set it back to 0. So we're going to make a copy of this set value event, open it up and set it to 0. It's still connected with the target. So now we just need to send this hit to that set value event there. Instead of sending it to this one that sets it to 1, we're going to set it back to 0. Alright, so now let's ride the track and I'll show you how this works. Now one thing we're going to do is I'm going to turn on editor icons so we can see the area triggers. So we ride up, hit it, and it turns on the area condition. You hit this one and sets it back to 0 and turns it off. Alright, so that's how you do area condition. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe and like.